In a wheat field turned to mud somewhere in eastern Ukraine, something has quietly changed the way the world thinks about armored warfare. It's not the 50-ton steel giant that decides who wins anymore. What decides it now is a $500 piece of plastic, 4 small propellers, and an operator sitting safely a couple of kilometers behind the line. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the world has been watching something that rarely happens anymore in modern history: a large-scale land war between two states, with thousands of tanks facing off along a front line stretching hundreds of kilometers. And by mid-2026, the tank losses on the Russian side have climbed to a level that even the most pessimistic military analysts didn't see coming back at the start. This video isn't just about counting numbers, it's about explaining how this happened, why it happened, and what it means for the future of land warfare everywhere. Let's start with the data. An independent monitoring group called Oryx has spent years tracking equipment losses on both sides. Using one strict rule, every loss they log has to come with visual proof, a photo or a video that can actually be verified, not a claim from a defense ministry press release. According to their tracking, by early May 2026, the number of Russian tanks and armored vehicles destroyed, damaged beyond repair, abandoned, or captured had crossed 14,000 units. And that number kept climbing week after week. Worth underlining here, this is a floor, not a ceiling. Because the method requires visual confirmation, actual losses are almost certainly higher, since not every incident on the battlefield gets caught on camera. Compare that to Russia's pre-war tank strength, where estimates of active and reserve tanks sat somewhere in the low tens of thousands, and what's happened over the past 4 years is roughly equivalent to wiping out nearly the entire armored force Russia had going into the war, forcing them to keep digging into old Soviet-era storage yards just to replace what's been lost. Interestingly, Ukraine hasn't come out of this unscathed either. The same dataset shows Ukraine losing around 5,800 armored vehicles over the same period. But it's the ratio that keeps catching the attention of military analysts. For every Ukrainian tank lost, more than 2 Russian tanks have gone down with it. In the history of modern armored warfare, a ratio like that is unusual, especially given that Russia, on paper, still holds a bigger advantage in troop numbers and defense industrial capacity. So the question, why is this happening? Why has a machine that for decades symbolized land power, armor thick enough to shrug off artillery fragments and stop anti-tank rounds, suddenly become this vulnerable? The answer isn't on the ground. It's in the sky. Starting around 2023 and accelerating hard through 2025 and into 2026, the Ukrainian battlefield turned into the largest live drone warfare laboratory the world has ever seen. Both sides are producing and flying small, cheap, disposable drones in numbers that would have sounded absurd a decade ago. We're talking millions of units a year. FPV drones became the new nightmare for tank crews. The operator flies it wearing goggles that make it feel like sitting directly in the drone's cockpit. The thing itself might cost about as much as a used phone, but it can knock out an armored vehicle worth millions. Operators learn to steer straight for a tank's weakest spot, usually the top or the rear engine deck, where the armor is far thinner than the heavily protected front glasses built to face incoming fire head-on. Then there are the bigger loitering munitions, Russia's Lancet drones. For example, designed to circle a target area until the right moment presents itself. Add in increasingly sophisticated anti-tank mines, precision artillery, and of course, guided anti-tank missiles like the Javelin, which became something of a symbol of Ukrainian resistance early in the war. Put it all together and you get what a number of military observers now call a dead zone, stretches of front line, sometimes 10 or more kilometers deep, where moving an armored vehicle without getting spotted and hit within minutes is close to impossible. The tank, which for roughly a century sat at the top of the land warfare food chain because of its mix of mobility, firepower, and protection, is now facing a threat that thicker armor alone can't solve. Because the enemy isn't just the round coming from up front anymore, it's an eye in the sky that can watch from every direction all the time. This shift has forced both sides to completely rethink how they use tanks on the battlefield. Back in 2022, we were still seeing large Russian tank columns rolling in, sometimes dozens of vehicles at once, straight out of a Cold War-style playbook. And we all remember how a lot of those columns ended up stuck in narrow roads, jammed together, and sitting ducks. That approach has mostly disappeared by 2026. Both Russia and Ukraine now tend to push tanks forward one at a time or in small pairs at most, darting from one covered position to another, firing, then pulling back immediately. Troops on the ground call it shoot and scoot, because if a tank sits still in the open for more than a few minutes, chances are a reconnaissance drone has already spotted it and an attack drone isn't far behind. On the Russian side, plenty of battlefield footage shows crews welding what troops nicknamed cope cages onto their turrets. Makeshift steel frames or wire mesh meant to trigger a drone's warhead early before it can punch through the main armor. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the warhead type. A lot of these modified tanks barely look like the sleek machines you'd see in a defense industry brochure anymore. They look like something bolted together in a hurry, because that's basically what they are. Ukraine, backed by Western-supplied equipment, tends to be more cautious with its own tanks, using them more often as long-range fire support from concealed positions rather than as the spearhead of a direct assault. The whole philosophy is flipped. A tank is no longer the tool you use to punch through enemy lines head-on. It's a support asset for infantry, one you go out of your way to keep hidden from drone eyes above. This shift in tactics also explains why the front line has barely moved in a lot of sectors over the past couple of years. When both sides are scared to move large numbers of armored vehicles at once because the risk of losing an expensive asset is just too high, the war ends up being fought more by drones against drones, artillery against artillery, with tanks playing a much smaller role than they did in the opening months. Losing tanks at this scale isn't just a military statistic. It hits Russia's economy in a very real way. A single modern tank, depending on the model, can cost millions of dollars to build from scratch. When over 10,000 units get destroyed across 4 years, that's tens of billions of dollars in military hardware simply gone. Not even counting the cost of training the crews who went down with a lot of those vehicles. Russia has responded in two ways. First, by ramping up production at the plants it still has running, even though international sanctions have made it harder to source certain electronic components and precision optics. Second, and this is what really gets analysts' attention, Russia has been pulling old Soviet-era tanks out of long-forgotten storage yards, vehicles decades old, patching them up as best they can and sending them to the front. A number of defense observers point out that if this trend keeps going, Russia's stockpile of repairable old tanks could run dry within a few years. If that happens, Russia would be fully dependent on new production, which is running at a pace far slower than current battlefield losses. Meanwhile, this whole situation is reshaping the global defense industry too. Countries that used to be lukewarm about investing in tank survivability are now rewriting their military doctrine. A lot of armies around the world are pouring new money into short-range air defense systems built specifically to shoot down small drones, something that used to sit pretty low on the priority list compared to conventional anti-aircraft missiles. Behind all this data and tactical analysis, there's a human story that gets lost far too easily. Every tank destroyed usually carries a crew of 3 or 4 people inside it. When a drone strike hits a tank in the right spot, the crew's odds of surviving are grim, especially if the tank's own ammunition stores go up in a secondary explosion. In plenty of documented cases, is powerful enough to blow the turret clean off and send it flying dozens of meters. The drone footage that circulates from the front line, as distant and abstract as it feels on a screen, is actually recording the final moments of real people's lives. Russian soldiers, many of them recruited from poor, remote regions of the country, some barely out of their teens, others middle-aged men swept up in emergency mobilization drives. On the other side of the line, Ukrainian soldiers, most of whom were ordinary civilians before the war, like teachers, drivers, farmers forced to learn how to operate sophisticated weapons in a matter of weeks just to defend their own land. This kind of modern armored warfare, for all its drone technology and precision strikes, is still, at its core, the same as every war before it in one respect. The casualties are people, families losing sons, wives losing husbands, children losing fathers, on both sides of that line. That's worth remembering, because it's far too easy for those of us watching from a distance to reduce all of this down to interesting statistics, without stopping to think that behind every destroyed vehicle is a life that was taken. What's happened in Ukraine since 2022 is almost certainly going to end up in military academy textbooks for decades to come. For the first time in modern history, we're watching in real time how cheap, mass-producible technology can match, and in some cases beat, expensive weapon systems that were long considered untouchable. A $500 drone can take out a tank worth several million. That kind of cost ratio is forcing countries around the world to completely rethink how they plan their defense budgets going forward. The Russia-Ukraine war, for all its tragedy, has ended up becoming, almost by accident, the biggest live laboratory in history for understanding how land warfare is going to look for the rest of this century. So, when we see a number like 14,000 Russian tanks destroyed since 2022, that's not just a statistic to throw around. It's hard proof of a revolution in how wars get fought, one that didn't come out of some advanced military research lab, but out of the urgent, improvised needs of a nation fighting to hold its own ground with a fraction of its opponent's resources. Going forward, anyone planning a large-scale land war is going to have to think twice. Because the lesson from the muddy fields of Ukraine is about as clear as it gets. Even the most advanced armored vehicle on Earth is no longer safe from a threat that arrives quietly. Thanks for watching all the way through. If this video helped you understand what's actually going on over there, drop your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.